Hi, sorry to interrupt your viewing. However, I'd just like to let you know about my counselling service, which is available online or in person if you're near us, to support you with the kinds of issues that we're talking about on my channel. So if you are affected by any of these issues, please get in touch because we can help you. We also work with narcissistic abuse, coercive control, loss, grief and bereavement, life transitions, careers, anxiety and low mood, depression, self-doubt, people-pleasing and struggling with boundaries, relationship difficulties, work stress and burnout and addiction, and self-medicating patterns. If you're looking for support with any of those things, please get in touch. You can book an appointment. The link is in the description and in my profile. Thanks for watching, and now back to the video that you came to watch. So hello, so today I'm really pleased to be joined by Lynne Pinches. Lynne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Lynne Pinches. I'm the lady that walked away from the trans player in the final of the pool tournament in November 2023. And I didn't honestly realise the massive impact that would have at the time, because it was at Pontons in Preston and wasn't like a world championships or anything. But yeah, that went viral, and my life sort of got I got thrown into the spotlight a little bit ever since with it, and have received a lot of abuse and also a lot of support.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want to tell us a bit more about what actually happened on that day and leading up to it?
Well, and leading up, the reason I did what I did in the first place is because this had been going on for about 6 years in our sport, and then we had another transgender player turn up, and if you like, that was kind of like a wake up moment, really, because I just beat a world champion just that day, 4-3, Amy Beauchamp. I just beat Amy at Daventry, and I walked to my next match to play who we now know as Lucy Smith, and that was actually their first event. None of us knew that there was another man in the tournament, trans player in the tournament, and the shock was just something I'd never experienced before. I never felt like conceding a match before, even through terrible pain and stuff like that. I've continued and worn my back, like a brace on my back, to playing, because I played regardless. But I wanted to put the score up to 4-0 at that point and concede, and that was in October 2022. That was like over a full year before I finally plucked the courage up to do it. But after I played that match, and I did lose, but I mean, honestly, I could not hit a ball. I was awful. And the reason was because the whole match I was thinking, I don't want to play. I don't want to play. This is unfair. This is ridiculous. And in 10 years' time, we'll have 8 players and in the quarterfinals, and all the women will be playing for the last 16. And also, I had 2 sons. I've got 3 sons, but I had 2 that played the sport that are adults. And when I played that match, I just saw one of my sons standing in front of me, in all honesty, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't support something that I wouldn't support my own sons doing. Because if my sons had done it, I'd have been, well, I don't really want to say what I would have been, but ashamed is one of the words I'd use, to be honest, because I would have felt like I raised them better than to do what you want with your life, but not trample over other people's lives and feelings and stuff like that. And in actual fact, there was one of the parents was there supporting it, and that was what made me think, if that was my son, I wouldn't be supporting it. I actually wrote a complaint. It was the first time I complained to the pool organisations, because it said in their policy that if you felt that that was being abused, that you could do something about it if you thought the rule was being abused. And I did think it was being abused. In fact, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke to start with, because the geeky Lucy on the back of the shirt, and a lot of men had said, we're just going to rope up and put a wig on and play, put a bit of lipstick on. And that'd been said for a long time, a lot of times. So I literally did think that's kind of what had happened, and they're just going to try and see how far I can push the rules. And I didn't receive a reply straight away to my queries, and it took 3 months. I chased it up, and I just got 2 sentences back saying they've put in the appropriate paperwork, and that was all I got, really. So off the back of that, the following year, we were told in August 2023 that we were going to be given a female-only section. Now, after every other complaints I'd made and pointing out that their policy was out of date and the IOC had updated guidance, I tried to guide them in the right direction, but they didn't do anything. They said we were going to have a female-only section, and the women were just elated. I mean, at the next event, you could feel the elation, even though that was a little bit of a quiet one, because you didn't want to offend anyone by saying we're over the moon, that we're going to have fairness restored. And then literally 8 weeks later, it was like a dangling carrot that they just took away, and they said we're going to change it back again. And the emotional effect of that decision right there when they changed it was like nothing else I don't think I've ever experienced, because I was so elated that I thought we'd achieved some fairness. When they took it away, I was like, no, they can't do that. They can't do that. No, this isn't possible. Like thinking someone's made this up. Nobody told us they were going to do it. They just literally put it on social media, and the comments were closed, which made it even worse. It was like, you've just stabbed every single woman in the back. But not only that, we've got no right to reply either. We've got no right to tell you how upset we are. And I just went on a complete rant on Facebook. I mean, I called actually, so I still stand by this because I got a bit of abuse for doing this, but I called the players that were playing selfish, absolutely selfish to the core, and that we're in this situation because a couple of selfish men. And I said it out loud. I don't regret it either. I don't regret it because I still think that's the case today. I don't think nice men would do it.
No.
My
I don't think
husband,
so either.
sorry, not husband, what am I talking about? We're not married. But my partner said to me, he was embarrassed to be a man. That's what he said. And I was like, what do you mean you're embarrassed to be a man? He said, I just can't get my head around how any man could do what these men are doing in sport or in any situation that they're putting themselves in women's spaces, unless it's deliberate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. Like, he said, I can't think why anyone would do it deliberately, or unless they're a narcissist. But it just seems like who raised them as well was one of the questions that got raised. Not to lay blame on their parents or anything, but however you raise someone doesn't mean how they turn out to be. But how can you support it? Was my thoughts. I'd be telling them, you can be who you want to be, but that's a line you're not going to cross. So yeah, that's how it all started. And then when the U-turn was done, a lady started a support group, and I got an invite, and I thought, oh, I'm definitely into this. I've been the most vocal. I'd been vocal for a couple of years, and people kept telling me, be quiet. You can't talk about it. You're not allowed to say that. So in the support group, and then it soon grew to like 30 women in a day, and then there was 60 the next day, and ended up with about 130 in altogether. There's still about 110, 120, because some people have left and some came back. And yeah, so in the support group, a lady called Alexandra Cunha, who plays pool for Portugal, who in fact not just plays pool, she'd been their captain for years. Very fantastic player. She said in that group, I'm done. I'm not ever playing against a man again in a women's tournament. And because she said that, I said I am going to do the same. I agree completely, 100%. I'm with you. I'm going to do the same. I'm just not going to play against them. Full stop. And just by sheer well, I don't know how I got to that final, to be honest. By sheer fortune. And I say fortune because I think now when I look back on it, it was a good thing that happened. I got to the final literally 3 or 4 weeks after making that statement in that group with 130 women in. And I've never said anything that I'm going to do and not done it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. My sister said to me after I conceded, even though you kept saying you're not going to play if you get to the final, I didn't really think you were going to do it. I did. She still that was my own sister. And I said that to her. When have I ever said I'm going to do something and gone back on my word or not done it? Never.
So did you have any men playing against you leading up to that? It was just the final?
Not in that competition, no, because I wouldn't have played him. Harriet was actually, in actual fact, the only male, I believe. Actually, I might be wrong about that, because since that happened, I found out there were 2 more trans players that had been playing for like 10 and 15 years in our organisation. And that was another thing that affected my mental health, because that happened shortly after the U-turn. That happened in late October at Last Woman Standing, and out that event that these 2 players were trans, and I was just completely like gobsmacked, because I played against these what I thought were women, against their teams and against them in singles as well, and over the years that I've played. And it's the lie. It's the not being transparent about it, because I don't understand. if you're really, really being yourself, why aren't you being transparent about the fact that you are in fact a man, and you're being your true self, being this person you think you're being? And I actually said that when I got to the final. I told the chairperson that if you go up there and announce Lynne Pinches is playing a transgender player, Harriet Haynes, I'll play it. And she said, I can't do that. And I said, well, I can't play it then. Because that's the transparency, you see. Not everybody in that room or everybody watching online would have known that I was at an unfair advantage from the start. And I wanted that to be known that I was already at an unfair advantage before the match started.
So there's a lot of people online saying, well, it doesn't make any difference in that it's not like you need strength
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
these ridiculous things. What would you say to those people?
I've had a lot of that. And in answer to that question, I can pretty much quickly put that to bed. There's an app that was recommended to me by a top snooker coach to measure break speed on the break in pool. It's apparent to me, the knowledge that I have, that women's breaks are not as powerful. We don't pop balls as often. We do more foul breaks as well. So I got the app on my phone, and I tested a vast range of people, of different sexes, different heights, different weights, and children, youth. So my top break speed is 16.02 miles an hour, and I have a 10-year-old son whose top break speed is 18.82 miles per hour, and he's 10, and he weighs like 6 stone. And I'm like 10 stone, over 10 stone. And I'm sitting there going, huh? What's going on? And that's to do with the way their shoulders are shaped and stuff like that. So they got more upper body strength here, which is required in a break shot. But the smallest man that I tested was 8.5 stone and 5'2", and he hit 18.9 miles an hour. And the biggest woman was 6 foot and 20 stone, and she just beat him by a tiny bit and hit 19, bang on 19 miles an hour. So when you put these two people next to each other, you are literally scratching your head thinking. But Emma, in the recent court case, that question was answered for me, because it has been puzzling me, the reason behind that, and the biology she explained about their shoulders and more upper body strength and faster twitch muscles as well. Totally nailed it. So yeah, if anyone says there's no difference, then if you compare my break speed with a 10-year-old boy, the only difference is that he's male, because I tested it across, we have a county match once a month. So I did some experiments on a county match and wanted all sections to record any foul breaks that happened, by way of not scoring the 3-point rule, which is potting a ball or getting balls to come backwards past the halfway line. I didn't include the white going in or the white flying off as a foul. I'm interested in whether the scoring of 3 points is happening. So out of 44 frames that our ladies team played that day, we had 4 foul breaks, so it was 10%-ish. The men, they're all men, even in the seniors and the youth. At that point in time, we didn't have any females playing in either of them sections. So they had 178 frames to our 44. And when I went to each section to say how many foul breaks did you get, I still can't believe it, to be honest. They didn't get any. 0 out of 178 across all sections. Not one. And I'm going, oh, come on, you must have had one. Yeah, are we really that bad? It's not that we're bad. It's not. It's that we're different.
Different.
It's a different sport.
Yeah.
Even at the top level, yes, you get top women in the world that can beat men. I've won a tournament with just men in it before, and I was the only woman. But they're all in my sort of same class, if you like. But the pro players, women, they might beat men every now and again. But the women that actually went on the Open Pro Tour, who qualified for that, were Emma Cunningham, Amy Beauchamp, and Harriet Haynes. Now, Harriet beat like of the men on that pro section. She beat one top player, Declan Brennan, twice, in fact, in a tournament. And Ronan McCarthy. These are massive. These are top 8 in the world men. Emma has beaten Ronan McCarthy once, but for the most part, Amy and Emma would have won one match each in a tournament and not got to the further rounds than Harriet did. And I think the difference is Harriet finished ranked on that 74th when they were on the pro Open series, and the same year finished first on the women's. So the proof is really in the statistics as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of obvious anyway.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a silly question to me, but you
is,
can
and
respond
snooker,
to it.
in snooker, the example that you can use is that there's only one woman that's ever made a maximum 147 break in the entire history of women's snooker. And one guy made two back to back the other day, one after the other in a tournament, a professional player. And there are amateurs and youth players that make them regularly. And we've only ever had one woman achieve it because it takes an enormous amount of focus and concentration to pot 36 balls in a row without missing. And to do it with all reds and blacks in their snooker and have that white ball on a string when the woman is thinking about was she buying for tea on the way home, or if her son's injured at football, or just random stuff that pops into a woman's brain. And there are all these things that affect focus and concentration, like men's, being menopausal or the menstrual cycle, endometriosis and fibroids, just all these women's things that. But we weren't even allowed to consider that in our legal case because not all women get pregnant, not all women have periods, not all women. I know, it's just so ridiculous. And you're going, well, yeah, that's true, but no men do. Absolutely zero men have them.
Yeah.
So please, what is your point? The fact we've had to prove that pool is gender affected rather than them have to prove that it's not annoys me as well, because that should have been their job to prove that it's not, in my opinion.
So the court case that you're referring to, is this relating to you conceding the pool tournament?
Yeah, after actually, that we started legal proceedings before I conceded. That was done when the support group was started in October. The legal proceedings were started, so that was before the concession. The Black Ball Association, the court case that just went, is a completely different. So we've got like two legal cases tearing the sport apart, if you like, all to do with the same issue. We're saying that we're discriminated against by the organisations for them allowing men to play in the women's section. And the men are saying, we want you to let us play because we've been discriminated against because we're trans and have had gender reassignment surgery. And I said right from the very start, it doesn't make sense to me because the categories are based on sex. So to me, the exclusion is based on the fact you're male. Sex is your protected characteristic in this instance, I would presume. I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but to me, that just read as common sense. But then when they pointed out that they've Kemi Banadoc said it and actually mentioned our case in Parliament and said that the law was being misinterpreted in the Equality Act. Because to me, when I was younger, I was taught sex and gender were the same thing. They meant the same thing, right? Correct. In the English language, if you had a form and it said gender on, you tick male and female. But they've twisted it somehow and it managed to make the word gender into a gender identity, which are two completely different things to me, still even now. And I think that needs change. And I think that a trans woman should have been referred to in the first place as a trans man, and a trans man should have been referred to as a trans woman.
It's
Because
very
that's what,
confusing.
yeah. If they'd used the correct language, and when you looked at an originally a male and you called them a trans male, you're not giving the language away. And because we gave the language away, I think that's where it
But
all
that's why they
started.
did it, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
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 And it's very confusing because your brain goes man, and then they say woman, and you're like,
Yeah.
what? And you have to really focus if you try and go along with it, because before I realised how harmful it was, I did go along with it, and I did find myself having to force myself to think before I spoke,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
it takes a lot of energy and brain power.
that's exactly what we've had to do, because it's in our pool policies. There's a whole bit about what words to use. If they have pronouns, use them, it says. I mean, it's like telling you have to do it. And if you don't do it, it then goes on to a bit about disciplinary procedure. If this policy isn't followed, then follow the disciplinary procedure. And we did actually have a woman banned, which has not really had much attention. 2 years ago, a woman called Helen Rowlands put on, and she won't mind me telling you this because I've told her to get in touch with the Free Speech Union, which I think she's recently done. She put on her Facebook, there's two men in the final. So yeah, it was 2 years ago because that's when it first happened. That was hidden up. And somebody said they didn't believe Harriet was a man. They didn't know Harriet was a man. So Helen put the photo of Harriet pre-op, which had been floating around. Loads of people had had it. I'd seen it. I just deleted it when I got sent it, but I've been sent it again since. So, but because she posted it on there, The person who sent it to her didn't get in trouble. She got in trouble for putting it on Facebook and was told banned by Ultimate Pool in the first place. Was got a letter saying she's banned from tournaments. And that then snowballed into not being able to play for a county pool team, not being able to play for Wales because she was playing for Wales at the time. Then she was meant to be on a money match day and she was excluded from that as well. She then tried to enter another county team, and a friend had written asking if both of them could go and play for this new county team, and they said, well, we think you'd be all right to play, but we don't think that she'd be a good fit. So the whole thing was like bullying, like one big...
You're not allowed to
To
tell
me,
the
that was
truth.
just bullying by exclusion. And then because of all that, she got a reputation now as being transphobic and hateful, and it's really not true. And people have said, oh, she's a very nice person. And I said, I don't care. I don't care if she's the horriblest person in the entire world. What she did not deserve what happened, because what she did was state the truth. There were two men in the final, and I'm pretty sure it's not illegal to put a photo of someone pre-op as long as they're an adult and that photo was already public, which it was because that was on the Facebook in the first place. So I don't think she'd done anything wrong. I still don't think she'd done anything wrong. I don't care anything about her character, her past, or whoever she is as a person, because in all honesty, I've only met her a few times myself. So I won't make judgments on someone I've only met a few times, and I certainly won't listen to gossip about someone without getting to know them first. That's not in my character at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really feel for her because she was the first person to do it. She just got used as a scapegoat. The same as in snooker. Maria Catalonia spoke out in snooker a few years back. And she was just shot down and bullied and trolled. And the players, because they have the same policy as us that says you must use pronouns. In fact, theirs is worse because they can get fined and have in snooker and have ranking points removed if they concede a match. So because of all that, I understand why the players are all quiet, because all they want to do is play, and they don't want to be seen to get the abuse that this person's got. Because I got all the abuse and then no one else. Although we did have 5 other women, in fairness, after I conceded, we had 5 other pool players concede matches. Kim O'Brien conceded a massive title, the European final, which Harriet had won. Bizarrely, Harriet and Kim played in the final the year prior to that, and Kim lost 7-1 the year before in a really, really short space of time. In fact, I was gutted. I remember it so well because I had a doctor appointment that morning at 10 a.m. and Kim was playing at 9, and she's a good friend of mine, Kim O'Brien, plays for Suffolk in our region. I was gutted because I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to watch the match because I got the doctors at 10. And it was over way before, it was finished before 10, and I got to the doctors by 10 o'clock and watched it all. So it was over in 30, 40 minutes. That's not women's pool. That's not. She was a spectator. And I think that when you get that done to you so many times, like I'd played Harriet prior to conceding 6 times and was a spectator in most of the matches. When that happens, it's demoralising. It destroys your confidence, especially when you know that it's unfair and it shouldn't be happening. And then it makes you not want to go. I had points where I cried before going to events when I drew Harriet in a group once, and that's not because of Harriet as a person. That's because of the unfairness. And how is it allowed? And I've got sons that play who excelled past me at age 14, and how can you not see it's unfair? And it's like you're living in a world that you think someone's going to wake you up, or Jeremy Beadle's going to jump out and say, "Oh, it's just a big joke," but that never happened.
So you're saying it took a lot of courage to actually concede the match?
Well, it did. It was turmoil, because even though I told loads of people, and like my sister said, my heart, if you watch the video, I watched it back and you can see I go like this, because once we've done the lag, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to go. I want to get out of here. Oh, I need to tell the ref I'm leaving first. You know, and then I go towards him, because it was like I was it wasn't really me. It was like I was in a daze, and I knew what I was going to do. Sorry, that was upsetting. Afterwards, I cried. Afterwards and felt bad, felt guilty.
What response did you get from the ref?
I think he was just a bit shocked. He didn't really say a lot. I just said to him that I'm really sorry. I don't think this is a fair match. So I'm not going to play. I'm conceding, but thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, so
and that's all I said to him. walked off, and literally I didn't hear any of the cheering, and only heard that when I was sent the video, and I didn't hear any of that or see any of that. I just wanted to get out of the room. I went up the stairs to get my friend and said, let's go, let's get out of the room. And I went outside, smoked a cigarette, and that's when like an overwhelming feeling of guilt hit me. Like, and I said, oh God, what if they hurt themselves? What if I've like pushed them over the edge? And I felt terrible about what I'd done. And then not long after that, I was still at the venue when someone sent me the video that just went out on X the other day of the view from the front that someone had filmed where I got mocked by my opponent. That's what I saw anyway. I saw the fact that when they went like this and did this and then shouted out, it's on Twitter. I shared it, I think, yesterday morning. I saw it and I reposted it and shouted freebie, freebie to the crowd and shushed the crowd like this, and just showed me that that wasn't a female in actual fact, because for 6 years I'd been treating the person as a female. I'm listening to pool commentators say she, her, call them by Harriet, and you get brainwashed into thinking that is a woman. So the empathy I had was because I thought that I had maybe broken a woman's feelings so badly that they might harm themselves, and then realised that this is a man. And that was, I mean, I knew it was a man. It sounds crazy to say it, but that is with making you use pronouns. I think that's one of the worst forms of coercive control I've probably ever had, in all honesty. And I think they should be, I think, because they've done it to people not just in sport, in jobs, haven't they? Where the same policies have the same procedure, where you've got to follow the kind, and if you don't, you're going to get sacked, or you're going to get disciplined and have to go to a meeting and be told to do better and train to accept people. You are accepting people for who they are. You just don't want them in the bathroom with you, or in your sport, or in prison. That's just outrageous. When I think about men in women's prisons, I can't even.
Absolutely.
The women that are in prisons have been abused. I should imagine probably 95% of women that end up in prison have been abused by men, or abused as children by men. It's not to say that women don't abuse, obviously, because they do, but most of them would have been the victim of some kind of domestic violence.
Yeah, mostly when women abuse, it's with a man, isn't it?
So to go in there and think that and some of them feel like that's their safe place when they're in prison as well. They go out of prison. I've seen programs where they go out of prison and they end up back in there because it's they feel more like they've been socialized to it because they've been in there so long that when they come out, they just can't do it. And so when you're in there and you've got that, I mean, come on. It's so beyond. When I found out about the prisons, I just couldn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. Yeah. Literally. And then
we had the Supreme Court judgment yesterday. Do you think that's going to make a difference?
Well, I hope so. I really hope so. We don't really know what difference that makes to the two legal cases as of yet until we hear from our solicitor. Because Harriet's case is a discrimination case, so I don't know whether there was discrimination at the time, but clearly there wasn't, because nothing has actually changed, has it? The Equality Act hasn't been changed or altered. They just clarified that sex, the word sex, means biological sex. So I think really what should happen is tomorrow, every single sport and every place that's been claiming it's not needs to change. All the policies need to change, and it's not hard to rewrite a sports policy and just have two categories, one for females only, biological females, and the other for everybody else, for all genders. In the other one, call it an open. We already have that.
They don't want that though, do they?
No.
This is the problem.
No,
like the
they don't.
Space, right. They don't want it.
We had one pool organisation started a transgender section. No one's entered it. Same as the swimming done it. Started their own transgender section and no one entered it. I don't really think you can call it a transgender section because, like you said, you get people that hide it up and don't come out. So that would just out them straight away if they had to enter one that should just be called all others. Yeah. Maybe you could do male, female, and then one for all others. And then women that want to support men in women's sports, the handmaidens that have supported it, can go and support it in the all others section and play against them if they really want.
So it's not really about men per se, it's just about fairness.
Absolutely, that's what it's been about for me right from the start. That's what I said. All we want in my first ever interview, all we want is fairness. The sports that have allowed it, the ones that are physical are the worst. They're the worst. Because they've always been able to change it. Because it says in the Equality Act, if your sport is gender affected, and with some sports, it's obviously gender affected.
The
Like
boxing was
boxing,
horrendous watching
karate,
that.
the MRA fighting or whatever it is. That one, just
Mhm.
awful. How could they allow that to happen? And then poor boxers at the Olympics. That was heartbreaking to watch.
I
And then
know.
that woman getting punished for it afterwards for conceding, and it is like as if we've been living in some kind of warped reality for quite a long time, and now it's finally over. Hopefully,
Well, I think they'll take a long time to filter through because I've seen a lot of jubilation from women,
yeah.
and they're certainly more confident about speaking out, which is great. But then I've seen the other side and how they're taking it, and they're not really accepting it.
No, well, I
So,
don't think they will. No, I'll definitely go on for a while yet. The fight, I think. I think that the harm that's been done to women is just, well, not just to women, to break this whole ideology. All the children that have, I met a detransitioner when I went to the Let Women Speak event at Colchester, who had both her breasts removed at age 19, and I actually gave her a lift home because she lived in Norwich, and I asked her on the way back, like, do you feel like you were old enough to make that decision, even though you were 19? Because I had a child at 17, and so at 19 I had a 2-year-old, and I definitely wasn't old enough to do that. And I know that now,
yeah,
looking back, if I could have done it, I probably would have waited till I was older. So I don't think that someone of 19 is old enough to make a decision to cut off their own breast. And also, I feel like that's like one of the just biggest forms of self-harm you could possibly have. And if doctors couldn't see that if you truly want to change from a woman to a man, something must have happened to you as a girl or a woman to feel that way in the first place. And that's a psychological thing that should have been explored first,
definitely.
way longer than any of them explored it.
Yeah.
Because they just wouldn't jump straight in with,
This is
you
the
want a
thing.
dead daughter and all that.
I was getting my nails done yesterday, and I got talking to the young lass who was doing my nails. She was 22, and she was saying that one of her customers had a trans child. Oh, and they talked to them for ages and tried to talk them out of it before they get any surgery or anything like that. And I just thought, well, that's not the stories that I'm hearing.
No, not
It
at all.
doesn't match what I'm hearing.
Parents are affirmant, aren't they? Even at a really young age, which is just beyond ridiculous. When I see these videos with these mothers on that children are like 5 and 6 and they got them, oh, he thinks he's a
Yeah,
girl. I remember my
yeah,
son thought he was Spider-Man and, rocket. He could go in a rocket and go to space, literally. And
absolutely.
your child probably still believes in Father Christmas
Yeah.
at age 6 and the
My
Tooth
son wanted to
Fairy.
be Gollum. He used to crawl around the house going, "My precious."
You could make a child of that age believe anything you want. That's how paedophiles operate, isn't it? By manipulating and grooming children into believing things that are not true. Children of a very young age will believe in Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy, and yet we're supposed to be convinced that they're responsible enough to think that they're a girl or a boy instead. And instead of you
Horrifying.
saying, when we were young, if somebody was gay or lesbian, they were encouraged to come out and be themselves and love themselves for who they are. Do you know what I mean? For who
Yeah.
they are.
And
And
that's the
this is
same
like
sort of
the
language.
complete opposite of
That's the
that.
language that they use, though, isn't it? I want to be who I am. And
Yeah,
like, but you're not, though, because you
you're
want to
not at
cut
all. Yeah,
everything off
yeah.
and
Uh,
pretend you're something you're not.
and the delusion this morning or today, I saw from India Willoughby saying that the bones stay the same and just ridiculous things. And pregnancy isn't a prerequisite to being a woman. That's that thing again about, oh, not all women can get pregnant and stuff.
He thinks
Oh,
he's a
honestly,
woman.
but not one single man can.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's the thing. Um, yeah, it's.
I think the hardest part of this past 2 years has been the self-exclusion, to be honest, because
You
you don't
haven't played
realise.
since.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The last 6, I think there's been 6 large events. The last 6 large events I've been to, I've not played, but I've been there as a spectator. And the hardest part is watching when you really want to play. All you want to do is play, but and being strong enough not to. Being strong enough not to, to just say, well, just put me in. for this event or whatever. And the heartbreak of not feeling part of it, because even though you're there as a spectator, it's not the same, is it? It's not the same.
Yeah.
And I cried about not being able to play, and how I felt like I weren't playing because two men were, and that is how I still feel, that they put two men's feelings above. Recently, another lady, excuse me, had to turn down a pro spot. Holly Can, who's involved in our legal case, she's one of the 4 named claimants. She got offered a pro spot for this year and turned it down because she's involved in the legal case, and she knows that she'd have to play against Harriet or Lucy in the pro sections. There's only 32 women in that. It's like an elite. So to get offered that and turn it down, I know how heartbreaking it is because I done it as well. But Holly still decided to play in the Challenger series, which is the lower level, to avoid putting herself through having to concede. And we had a trans player in the Challenger section this time as well. So even that was compromised with a male unfair advantage in it. And that's what I'm saying, that the future was what happened when they played in the final together recently was the future I saw. What I was telling you at the beginning about when I played Lucy Smith. In the future, we'll see 8 all in the quarterfinals, and the women will just be pushed to the back of the queue. Pardon the pun, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much true.
So
That's what
I
happened. We
think, yeah,
were.
so that's because I saw that there was 2 men actually playing in the final.
Yeah.
Was
And
that a
that was the
competition
second
that you would
time.
have been involved in?
Yes, if I'd have not turned down my pro spot, then I would have been, I suspect, still playing on the pro tour this year. But I turned it down because I'd have had to. They know that's the reason as well, because I told them I can't play because I can't win. I can't win a tournament because I'm going to concede against either of those players. So I'm not going to get I'm only going to get as far as whenever I bump into one, and then I'm out. So it was £1,000 to enter for the year, plus hotel fees, plus food, travel. It's a lot of money to go and concede matches, even if it would have proved a point and made a bit more of a stand. I think the fact that they knew that I'd already conceded a match, if I had played, they probably would not have ran the live stream until the match was already playing, if you know what I mean. So you wouldn't have seen that concession on TV, just like you didn't see the final go out on their social media 2 years ago when Harriet and Lucy played each other in the final for the first time. They hid that up because usually they put on social media, Ultimate Poll will put on their Facebook and all the social media accounts, the final's going to be played at such a time and what channels that's on, available on, and nothing happened. Actually didn't happen in the semi-finals, didn't get posted out either because one of each was in the last 4. And I saw the tournament director at breakfast the next day because you're all in the same hotel, and I said, "Oh, it's a bit strange that they didn't advertise the final on the social media last night, and it was just put out live, but didn't get advertised where it was going to be." And he went, "Well, it's a bit and I said, "Controversial? What are you going to say controversial? Because that's even more controversial that they didn't put it out, don't you think? Really? Because now people are going to be questioning why didn't you play the final?" Or advertise it. And then when Harriet won, they just put a picture of the winner. Harriet won the ladies' pro series, whatever it was, and closed comments again. So the comments are open on the men's winner, closed on the women's, and half the comments on the men's are about why can't we comment on the women's, and they shouldn't be playing us ridiculous. So it's kind of taken away from the man that won. All the congratulations that he should have been receiving was
It's just
full of
stark though, isn't it?
negativity
It's
at the
stark
same
that
time.
they've played each other twice. How often would that happen?
They played each other more than twice, but they
Do
were
you know what I
just the
mean?
two
In the
finals.
final, I mean.
Yeah, they played each other. That was, I looked through the statistics and I actually noticed that actually most of the players that had beaten Harriet or Lucy were in the top 8 or were themselves. Or they'd been knocked out by each other along the way. So, I mean, that's not what they signed up for, is it? They signed up to play against women, both of them. So that couldn't have made them very happy that they drew each other. And that's a bit ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it is. Well, that's what you get. So in
The
terms of
exclusion just felt like that got worse recently because although I'm not going to go into much detail, I was asked to leave a recent event in a couple of weeks ago in Wigan. My body cam was brought up as a reason, but actually it wasn't, because I was told that I could keep that on. And they'd escort me in the room and look after me if I removed it. And that's how I removed it, and then was told to someone completely different by a different security team and had to leave completely. I was there with my son and partner, but that's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah.
Because
So
I'm
that on
still
social
quite upset.
media,
It's a bit raw.
yeah, really
But yeah,
upsetting.
the exclusion and bullying that I've received has not been to the extent of Helen Rowlands, who was banned, but that still feels like a ban, even though I self-excluded. Do you know what I mean?
You were
I
kind
can't.
of backed into a corner, weren't you? You had no
Yeah, well,
choice.
exactly. Yeah, precisely because my choices were go there and concede or not play at all.
Yeah.
So it's not really much of a
Not a good
choice.
choice, is it?
Honestly, what I went through conceding, and that I'm sure the 5 women who, well, I know that the women who've done it since went through utter turmoil before. And one of them was crying in a hotel room before and after she'd done it because she knew she'd made a decision. Spoke to one of her children about it, I believe, who she was worried might not support, and they were really supportive, which made her make the final decision that, you know, as long as my family is supportive, I'm gonna stick to my guns. And it's been so upsetting for all of them. And watching some of the young ones as well is so heartbreaking. Losing over and over to Harriet or Lucy, and I'm sitting at home watching or sitting in the crowd watching. Thinking, I'm 52, you know, I'm coming towards the end of mine, but I've got to carry on doing this for them because they're not brave enough, they're not strong enough, maybe whatever the reason. They might have a job that affect. A lot of them have got sponsors. There are loads of reasons they can't, but I think a lot of them is that when they're young, they haven't got the strength of character,
Yeah.
and they're easy to manipulate and tell to be kind as well. I think
Yeah.
I had to keep going, no matter how low I got. At some point, I wasn't going to give up. I mean, I've had days when this just happened, literally had me on my knees. The other weekend was one of them, getting asked to leave a pool tournament after playing for 30 years is something that I won't ever forget, to be honest with you. That's
No,
like,
I bet.
you know, and it was in
Quite
a public
traumatic.
building. It's just heartbreaking that anyone could be treated that way just for, well, I was there with my son. My son was playing and I was there as a spectator.
Yeah. So whereabouts are your legal cases at now?
Well, ours is, we're coming to a close, and I think that we'll get a decision on ours we were due to get a decision on ours before the July judgment that the English Black Ball Pool Federation were given, and we knew that, but we don't know where, after yesterday's judgment, where we stand on either, because that was mentioned at Canterbury by the judge about the ruling coming up on the Wednesday, and that would be discussed depending on the result after that. But I don't know what discussion they've got to have legally to sort that out, or whether it has any effect on either, or whether we just got to wait until they change the policies. But I should imagine, from what I've read just on social media, that sporting bodies are going to have to just change their policies ASAP, or be getting sued for discrimination from the women if they still allow the men to play, particularly in sports like football. So I think the FA now need to stand up really and set an example for all the other sports, because had they have done that in the first place, the FA being as big an organisation as they are, I think that would have had a domino effect, to be honest with you. And I was praying all the way through this that the FA would take some responsibility, and kind of in a way was praying someone would get hurt, which is awful, so that they'd wake up. You know, I'd wake up and someone's got a
But
busted
that's
leg or
happened.
by being tackled by. And then I read that did happen, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A woman was injured, brain
Yeah, in
injury.
volleyball, wasn't it? In the neck, Peyton
Yeah.
McNabb, paralysed
It
on
is
one
the
side.
sport. It's really the sport that gets people's attention though, which
Yeah,
is, you know,
football.
they really get that. Whereas like some of the other things that are happening in some ways are more serious. Like obviously it's not more serious for you because it's happening to you personally. I'm not trying to take away from that. If you're a woman in a prison with a man who's been a rapist, who's done it before, that's horrifying. But it is the sport that's really standing
Yeah,
out to
they need to
people.
get all of the men out of the prisons right now, in
Yeah,
actual fact. Because I think also a lot of those men have taken advantage of that,
of course.
not just in the prisons, but across the board. Have
You've just
jumped
got to
from,
look. You've got to look at the picture of that Isla Bryson or whatever his proper name is. I can't remember.
He was the double rapist, isn't it?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Scotland. He looked like he was pretending.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them have done that. I really do. Just to take
Yeah.
advantage of jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak. I think that should have stayed LGB, because to me, trans is not a sexuality. So I don't know why it was ever put under the same umbrella. And also, there's a massive difference between a trans man and a trans woman, and the reasons behind the two things are
Definitely.
completely different. So I also don't think they should be put under the same umbrella either.
No.
Because one, to me, is for the most part a fetish, and the other is for the most part because they've been abused at some point, I would imagine.
Yeah. They're trying
From
to
what I've
identify
learned,
out of their sex,
yeah, and it's a
whereas men are
self-harm
trying
for the
to
women.
identify into
Yeah,
womanhood.
absolutely. Yes, yes, you nailed it there, definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. 181 in, that is exactly what it is. And I didn't actually realise that until I spoke with the detransitioners, and because I've spoken to more than one now, and how they get treated when they detransition by the trans community, it's just awful. This couple that I know had to move away from London because their house was getting spray painted and all sorts, threats and violence on them, because they both detransitioned, were a disgrace. So when you look at it like that, that kind of remind me a bit of like a cult, really,
Well, it is a cult,
like a
isn't it?
church cult or something.
And that's what they
Whereas
say
if
about us.
yes, I read that actually for the first time, one of the pool players had an argument on X with he blamed the women that went to the protest for someone losing a match because that put them off, and they gave him a bit of a hard time about it, deservedly so, because it just felt like he was bullying them. To me, blaming the women that are there to protect women and stand up for their rights. You're blaming for a woman losing a match who wouldn't have lost that match if they weren't playing against a man in the first place, most probably, and would have won more tournaments than they already have had there not been two men playing for the past, two for the past couple of years. And well, there's more than two. We have about 8 altogether, maybe 10 trans players playing pool. When you go down to the county level and throughout the counties and stuff, so there's been a lot of them. There's just been Harriet, Lucy that have put themselves in more of a spotlight by playing on the Ultimate Pool and playing in the Pro Series. So there you get a lot of you don't get a lot of limelight, but you do if you get in that pro section. You've seen them on the TV, and it was on TNT Sports and stuff. So that has been more exposure for them. And I did say at one point, I wonder if it's about attention, because I absolutely hate it. I hate attention. I hate having my photo taken. I find these interviews, I get very anxious and stuff. I'll sit there for like an hour before, worrying that I'm going to be late, even though I'm right here. And I feel awful when I go on any kind of live stream and have to play, because I think, God, I'm going to play terrible. Everyone's going to say, what a dreadful shot that is. Everyone's watching. And I absolutely hate it. So I'm not one for being thrown in the limelight and having attention, but some people love it.
You've done
You
really
know,
well then to forfeit the match, and
I
then
haven't, yeah.
you've gone on and spoke in interviews, and you've spoken at Let Women Speak as well, haven't you? I've seen you
Yeah,
do that.
I got, when I spoke at Let Women Speak I spoke in Colchester for the first time, and I met Kelly J. Keane for the first time. Lovely, lovely woman, brilliant. And then I met her again in Norwich, my hometown. I spoke there, and that is actually what prompted me to wear a body cam in the first place, because I had a bottle of water thrown at me from behind just after speaking, and I didn't even see it coming. So that was what I mean. If it had been chucked at me from the front, or I saw the person before it happened, I might not have been so affected by it, kind of thing. But because it was from behind, and it could have literally been anything that they thrown at me, that prompted me, along with another incident shortly after, where I was bullied at the World Championships by uh, someone close to the trans player. I then decided that I was gonna wear a body cam after that. Yeah, I need it for my own peace of mind, because I've got PTSD. I've got CPTSD. I was diagnosed with that during COVID, even though I knew that there was something wrong with me for maybe 15 or more years. So I was diagnosed with that and had EMDR therapy done during COVID. And this happening just brought it all back. All the flashbacks, all the panic attacks, the sweats, the pain in the stomach, or not wanting to go into supermarkets on my own, or just everything in there. And I kept seeing the person's face like over and over again, and I couldn't sleep, and I kept waking up and his face would be there. So I think when you got something like CPTSD or PTSD, the bad memories sort of remain at the front of your brain instead of going where they should go, and you don't really the good things don't get remembered very often. So when you got something like that and you get an abuse, it's harder to forget that. Even if you've got 6 million people being lovely to you, just one or two people can have like a really massive
It's a
effect.
survival thing, because you evolve to focus on threats rather than, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
survive. So
yeah,
that's how it
exactly.
works. You are going to do that because that's what's helped you survive,
Yeah,
evolutionary.
yeah, definitely.
But it makes it hard to deal with life when that's happening and you're not actually in danger,
Yeah,
and then that happens. It's really tough.
it makes you that sort of thing happens, and then you become a little bit paranoid, if you like, with that as well, because you're jumpy and you're always looking over your shoulder and making sure that you sit like when I go in somewhere public to eat, which is not that often, I have to sit in a corner where I can see the door and I can see a way out. My partner's like, "Do you want to sit over here?" "Yes, I want to sit that side." He knows the reason why. Friends don't, but they just probably think I'm a bit odd. I've got to sit in the corner so I can see the whole room. I need to be able to see. And people don't understand that you make adjustments to be able to deal with it. And then when a big event happens, you don't just get that big event there, you get all the other memories that come with the whole bundle of the CPTSD from years of domestic violence. I had some crazy, crazy partners in the past. One of them, well, the worst thing I'd say probably the worst thing that happened was one of them pulled a knife out and stabbed himself in the stomach with it right in front of me, and pierced his
Goodness.
bowel, almost died. But there wasn't just that he did that, it was the experience that I went through when he done it, because I was arrested. I was arrested by the police because I had blood on me. I was taken to the police station, and because it says on my juvenile thing not to put me in a locked cell, because I kind of banged my head on a cell when I was a youngster. So they don't lock the door. I can still get in and out. They put me in one of them cages, like in a waiting area thing. And I ended up having to be sedated by the doctor, gave me a little blue tablet, and I didn't know what it was. I was seeing things. I was just crying. I remember crying like the whole time. And they wouldn't tell me whether he was dead or alive, because there was like, it looked like he was going to die. It was blood. There wasn't blood when he immediately done it. And the bizarre thing is he did it, and then he got in his van and drove off. And we're like, where did he go? What did that really happen? You start to think, did I actually see that? Because I didn't see anything squirt out like you would if on TV. I mean, it was a massive knife. It was a kitchen knife this long, huge.
Goodness.
And he drove off, and then he came back. And what he did is, because he'd been drinking and on drugs, he didn't want to get done for the drink driving, so he was off sound mind to drive the vehicle, move it to the building next door, which was another car park, public car park, bowling place, because he done outside the hotel on my sister's wedding night. And he drove back and then collapsed in the foyer of the hotel, and that's when blood started to come big time out. And he started to go blue, and the ambulance came. But I thought he was dying, and they wouldn't tell me if he was dead or alive. And the solicitor turned up like 17 hours later and had a right go at the police. Why is she here? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I got put in a boiler suit, had to take all of my clothes off, had my nails scraped, fingerprints done, photos taken, all of that before any facts were determined. And I told them, do you not think I know how crazy this sounds that he'd done it himself? But he did. And then a few years later, they put it in, it was in EastEnders storyline, wasn't it? Janine stabbed herself. And I was like, see, people do crazy things like that. But afterwards was hard to deal with as well, because do you know what? He never told the truth about it. He told them someone stabbed him and ran off. I think he told the police eventually, because mysteriously, I had a police tape posted through my door, and it says Norfolk Constabulary on it. I still have that tape to this day, actually. And he was arrested for something a year or so later for criminal damage somewhere. And during that, he asked for an appropriate adult. And you hear him on the tape. They asked, why do you need an appropriate adult? And he said he was suicidal and he'd stabbed himself before in the past. So he admits it on there, but he never admitted it to his family. He never admitted it to his friends. His mum, when I went to the hospital to see him, because I was so brainwashed by that man that I went to visit him when I was let out of hospital, rather than running in the opposite direction for 1,000,000 miles, which is what I should have done. My family were all saying, "Oh, it's meant to be the man you love, aren't you worried? He nearly died," even them, because they brainwash your family as well. And his mum looked at me like I was an ant, like I had done it. And I had people ask him in front of me, "So, mate, what happened?" And he'd show him his scar like he was proud of it. And and say, "Yeah, they never caught you on it." And I'd just be standing there thinking, you're such a, I don't want to swear, but
You can swear.
when you think about it, how did I do that and still stay with that man for about a year after that? But that's how coercive control and manipulation gets to you, and the fear is a real thing. Do you know what I
And
mean?
that's why this is so harmful, because you start doubting yourself, even though you know,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're like, well, maybe I've missed something. And you
And
start asking yourself.
well, you do, because you walk when you're a victim of or not a victim, a survivor. I am now of domestic violence. You feel like, when you walk away from something like that, you're taking back control, basically, and you're not going to ever let yourself have that happen to you again. You're not going to let a man control you, tell you what to do, tell you what to wear, what time to be in, any of that. It's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden you find yourself here, and you think, well, I didn't see that coming. I'm being coercively controlled, but I cannot do anything about it. I cannot do nothing about it whatsoever. And the minute I realised, actually, I'm allowed to say no. I'm allowed to say no to this. The same as I was allowed to say no then, and I did, eventually. Eventually, I woke up in this situation as well and realised that I still am a woman, and I'm allowed to say no to anything in life that I want to say no to. And that's what we should be teaching our daughters and our granddaughters,
Absolutely.
that we need to say no more often. And it's not
Definitely.
rude to say
No,
no,
it's not.
even if you say off.
Well, that could be rude, but it's probably fitting for the circumstances.
politely say no, thank you, but no, thank you. Yeah, so I
This is
do
the
feel
thing,
like
though.
when I conceded, I took control back a little.
Yeah, women are often called aggressive when they've just been assertive. So
Absolutely, I've had that a lot.
can't believe it. This is the thing, though. We can't say no, and it's not aggressive. If a man says no, nobody calls him aggressive. We just go,
No,
okay, then.
that's because it's just accepted that testosterone is a part of who men are. Like, at the moment, I'm trying to teach my son, who's 10, not to get in a temper when he loses. And it's an extremely difficult thing to do when a 10-year-old has bursts of testosterone that they can't control.
Yeah,
I mean, he absolutely hates losing at anything. And why are girls not like that? I mean, there must be some girls that are like that, but
yeah,
for the most part, they're not. In all my years of playing pool, 30 years of playing in the county, I've seen like literally 3 women that were bad tempered. But all 3 of them, and I wonder if this is a thing, and I don't want to cause offence or anything, but all 3 of them were very tall, ballsy women in the first place. 2 were 6 foot. And so they were massive personalities already. And I do wonder if they may have more of a higher testosterone level
yeah.
than some
Were there
women.
also redheads?
Yeah. And one of was actually, one was.
There's a stereotype, isn't there, about redheads? A fiery temper.
But yeah, because I had that conversation about the 3 women, and I looked back and thought, actually, 3 of them were already massively large personalities and very, very overwhelmingly, to men, probably quite intimidating as women.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's why they also can control it and hate it loose. But I've never been like really one who hates lose, and I graciously shake people's hands all the time and say good luck in your next match. And that's what I'm trying to
It
teach
is a skill,
myself.
though, to learn grace when you lose.
Yeah. I do think a lot of the problem, though, is like at school when we were younger, when you did school sports days, there were winners and losers, and some of the losers would end up crying, unfortunately. But that was just the way it is. And we were just like, oh, never mind.
Mhm.
You can still have a sweet or whatever. It'll be all
Yeah,
right.
but now they
You
don't.
still get a sticker. You don't. You might not
Yeah,
get a rosette, but you still get a sticker. But I don't know for how many years now.
yeah,
But they don't do winners and losers anymore. It's like they're
yeah.
not allowed to be it. And I don't think they should do that, because
No.
when you do put someone in a competition who's never learned as a 4-year-old what winning and losing is, they're like, well, wait a minute. I hate this feeling. you know, and they don't know what it's like, and they should be taught at a young age that you can't win at everything, and that it's about taking part and being part of something greater than winning. And if you do win, then that's just a little cherry on the top for you. That's all. That's how it should be explained.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning thing for children. So thank you so much, Lynn, for coming on my podcast. It's been amazing talking to you.
No problem. Sorry if I talked a lot more than you.
That's all right. It always happens. It always happens, but it's good. You had a lot to say, and it was interesting, so it's good. If the viewers would like to follow you, where's the best place to go?
I'm on Facebook, just under my name, Lynne Pinches, and I'm on X under Pinches Lynn. So it's the other way around. I don't know how that
I'll get
happened.
your links and put them in the description so
That'd be
people
great.
can
Thanks, Kelly. It's been
click on it.
wonderful talking to you as well.
Well, thank you
And,
so much.
let's hope we keep smiling after yesterday's result, and that it stays positive for everyone.
Absolutely. That's what we're hoping for, isn't it?